All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about dreams, and I'm going to focus on uh, 5 theories: psychoanalysis, activation synthesis, and I'm going to talk also about memory theory and continuity hypothesis within that system, within that theory. And then I'm going to talk about threat stimulation hypotheses. These are not competing theories. This isn't that one of the theories is probably going to be right and the other ones are going to be wrong. They're not competing. They are describing different aspects of dreaming. And so one of the oldest ones here is psychoanalysis. And this is Freud. We talked about Freud briefly in chapter 1, and we're going to talk about Freud a lot more later on in the semester. But Freud's theory on dreaming suggests that we have a conscious mind, a mind that you are aware of, and you have an unconscious mind, a mind that you are not aware of. Things are happening in your unconscious mind that you have no idea are running through your brain. And uh, your unconscious mind, it has a lot of your anxieties and wishes and fears and other things that you're really not comfortable with. So that maybe you secretly want to have sex with your boss, or you sometimes dream about murdering your friend. Well, no one wants to think that they're that kind of person. And so we repress all of those feelings into your unconscious mind. But when you're asleep, sometimes your id, that little monster or that little devil on your shoulder telling you to do bad things, um, releases your unconscious desires and fears and anxieties into your conscious mind. But still, your conscious mind, your ego, the part of your personality that is supposed to keep everything under control, um, doesn't want you to know about all of those things that you have in your unconscious mind, because you would wake up in a panic. You'd wake up thinking, why am I a bad person, or something like that. And so, what your conscious mind does, what your ego does, is that it hides all of those desires and anxieties and things that are coming in your unconscious mind, uh, from your unconscious mind into your conscious mind. Um, your ego hides them in symbols. And so the anxiety you have towards your father's, disapproval of your life gets hidden behind a symbol of a gorilla. And maybe, the troubles in your life get hidden by an image of a pool or a river or something like that. And so when you wake up, you remember the symbols, and the symbols sound crazy. We've all had dreams like, I was being chased by a gorilla, and then I fell in some muddy water, and I was getting pulled down by the seaweeds, and then suddenly I was talking to my friend at a mall for some reason, and then we went out for coffee. And you're like, what could it mean? Right? Those are symbols. And if you sat down with a psychologist, the psychologist might ask you, how you feel and the different symbols and what does that mean to you, things like that, so that your psychologist could figure out, what do those symbols represent? What is the latent content? So the manifest content is the symbol, the thing that's hiding the truth. That's the thing that you remember about the dream. But the latent content is the hidden content. It's the part of the dream that is what is the actual anxiety? What is the actual wish fulfillment that the symbol is trying to hide? And so, sometimes people, maybe somebody's swimming in some water and maybe they feel like the water is dirty or something. And the psychologist might tell them that uh, the water symbolizes their life, and the fact that it's dirty might represent that they feel their life is too cluttered and that they need to clean it up or control it somehow, something along those lines, right? Um, but everybody's dreams are going to be slightly different because everybody's, uh, symbolic content might be ever so slightly different. But there are things that usually show up on a regular basis. Gorillas tend to represent, you know, fathers or at least father figures, and there's a lot of different uh, objects might represent sex, things like rocket ships or snakes, things like that. Water often represents life somehow, but for every person it's going to be ever so slightly different. Now, uh, that uh, Freud's theory describes our unconscious minds and our anxieties sipping into our dreams. But that's not the only thing that gets incorporated into a dream. One of the main things that gets incorporated into your dream is the environment around you. So that sometimes you're sleeping and you left the radio on and a song came on the radio, and in your dream, you're hearing that song. Or maybe you left the news on and the news is talking about some murderer, and in your dream, you dream about a murderer. Um, this is what we call activation synthesis. Essentially, you're incorporating the environment around you. And sometimes the environment around you is just your own body. Sometimes you dream that you're cold and you wake up because the room is cold. Sometimes you dream that you want to go to the bathroom. And when you wake up, you have to go to the bathroom. Or you dream that you're thirsty because in reality, you're thirsty. This is all activation synthesis. You're just incorporating the environment, whether it's music or your own body or somebody talking in the distance. You're incorporating the environment into your dream. Um, Memories are also incorporated into your dreams. And so you were doing math homework. And so sometimes when you dream about doing math homework because as your brain is going over all of the problems that you did for homework, well, some of those just get incorporated into your dream. You uh, went to Disney with your friends and your friend fell down or something like that, and you dream about your friend falling down, or you dream about Mickey falling down or something like that. Because essentially what's happening is your memories are getting incorporated into your dream. Now, it's not a one to one. It's not, I dreamt about, or I saw Mickey, and so I dreamt about Mickey. Sometimes it's, sort of folded into other things. And so you watched a Mickey Mouse, or you went to Disney and you saw Mickey Mouse, and so you dream about a rat, right? So it's not always one to one. It's not a perfect thing because um, it just so happens which part of that memory gets incorporated into the dream. If it's just up Mickey's happens to be a mouse, well, maybe that is what gets incorporated into the dream. And then, of course, you see their continuity hypothesis. And continuity hypothesis says that we incorporate just normal parts of our life. Sometimes you drive in traffic. And so sometimes you dream about being in traffic. You go to Valencia. And so sometimes you dream about being in Valencia. You work at the cafe. And so sometimes you dream about the cafe. You just dream about, or you incorporate things that are normal parts of your life. But of course, your life is different from mine. And so, you're going to dream about the cafe, and maybe I'm going to dream about trying to get a PowerPoint presentation together or something like that. If you happen to live in some other part of the world where there are animals around, tigers. Well, maybe you dream about a tiger because that's a normal part of your life. But for me, that's not going to happen on a regular basis because that's not a normal part of my life. Now, the last dream theory I want to talk about is actually a hypothesis. So it's called a threat stimulation hypothesis. The reason this is threat stimulation hypothesis and not straight threat stimulation theory is because this is somewhat of a new theory or a new way of explaining dreams. There's a lot of evidence for it. It works out. But remember that an important part of being a theory is that we have consistently proved it correct for decades or centuries. And that just hasn't happened to this. So we still call it a hypothesis. So, what is threat stimulation hypothesis? This suggests that your dreams are a type of virtual reality where you can try out scenarios that if they happened in real life, it would be horrible for you, right? You might get killed or embarrassed or something like that. And so you don't want to do it in real life, but you want to be prepared for it. And so your brain does this virtual reality to prepare you just in case it really happens. Imagine if you did live in a world where tigers came out of nowhere and killed people. Well, you don't want the first time that you deal with a tiger to be in the real world because then you're just going to die. That tiger is going to kill you. But if you have a few shots of it in your dreams, well, then you can experience the panic and you can experience maybe even the pain or you can think about what could I do, and it allows you not only while you're sleeping but also when you wake up to think about what could I have actually done to get myself out of that, so that if it ever happens in the real world you're just a little bit more prepared because you tried it out in your brain. Now, we don't happen to live in a world where tigers come eat you on a regular basis. And so, our threat stimulation hypotheses type of dreams tend to be things like, you went to work without pants, or you forgot that there was a test today, or you forgot to go to that one class that you registered for, but you never went. Oh, what am I going to do now? Um, or because we watch a lot of movies and your brain sometimes thinks that those movies are real, then they might include things like zombie apocalypses or if the serial killer comes after you. Because your brain is saying, hey, I saw that this happened in the real world. So let's try it out in our virtual reality world. Just in case it ever actually happens, we're going to be a little bit more prepared for that event. Now, in your packet, I am going to ask you to sort of think about a dream and then think about how you would describe that dream. So give yourself, just a little bit of a paragraph. Tell me of a dream you had recently or a long time ago. It doesn't matter. And try to figure out which is the best way to describe that dream. Is it psychoanalysis? Are there a lot of symbols that you think maybe mean something else? Is it memory theory? Is it that maybe something happened the day before and you just internalize the memory? Is it continuity hypothesis where they're just different aspects of your life that are got incorporated into the dream? Or is it activation synthesis hypothesis where something in the environment while you were sleeping got incorporated into the dream? The alarm, the clock, the temperature. Or is it threat stimulation hypothesis where um, your brain was trying to give you a chance to deal with a possible threat in the future so that you can be prepared for it if it ever happens? Number one, uh, try to play around with it, figure out which one best describes your dream. And remember that none of these theories are competing. Multiple of them can occur. It could be that you dreamt about dinosaurs because you watched Jurassic Park yesterday, but maybe the dinosaurs represent some unconscious fear, blah, blah, blah. That can also happen.